Hey everyone, and welcome back. I want to talk about something deeply personal, something and I suspect many of you, have been utterly wrong about for years. I want to talk about productive anxiety. It sounds like a superpower, right? That nervous, wired internal flutter that tells you the deadline is coming, the bill is due, the presentation needs revising, and you'd better move. We've all been there. It's 11 p.m. You're staring at a task you've been procrastinating on all day, and suddenly a wave of panic hits. And in that panic, you feel a jolt of energy. The adrenaline spikes, the brain clears, and for 2 glorious, frantic hours, you work like a machine. You finish the task, you collapse into bed, and the next morning, you look at the finished project and think, see, I needed that stress. That anxiety is what pushed me across the finish line. It's my secret weapon. We tell ourselves this story constantly. We treat anxiety not as a mental health challenge, but as a tool, a high-octane fuel we pour into our mental engines when we need results. We've been conditioned to believe that if you're not slightly stressed, you're not trying hard enough. If you're not running on the edge of burnout, you must not care about your success. It's the philosophy that equates busyness with worthiness. But here's the brutal truth that took me years to accept. The myth of productive anxiety is a lie. It's not a secret weapon, it's a self-destruct button. That sudden jolt of energy isn't motivation. It's a sheer, last-ditch surge of survival chemicals designed to get you out of immediate danger, not write a thoughtful report or craft a meaningful life. The core question we have to answer for ourselves, honestly and without judgment, is this: is my stress actually helping me, or is it just making me miserable? And more importantly, what happens when we finally dare to swap the frantic fuel of fear for the sustainable power of calmness? Think about the feeling of productive anxiety. It's often a very loud, shallow energy. It makes you feel like you're accomplishing a lot because you're moving fast, clicking tabs, sending emails, and deleting tasks. But are you actually doing good work? Or are you just doing urgent work? For me, the realization started with the email inbox. I used to feel this intense, anxious pressure every morning to clear it. I'd rush through emails, firing off quick, clipped responses, convinced I was being productive. I measured my success by how quickly the notification badge went down. I was busy, therefore I was important. I was stressed, therefore I was driving towards success. But when I looked back at those periods of frantic anxiety, I realized 2 things. I was not just doing shallow work, but also I was doing poor quality work. The really hard, creative, complex thinking, the work that actually moves your career or your life forward, requires mental quiet. Anxiety is the enemy of quiet. It thrives on reactivity. It makes you respond to the world instead of thoughtfully creating something new for the world. My anxiety pushed me to answer 5-second emails for an hour, but it stalled my 4-hour creative project for weeks. Shallow work is anything that can be easily replicated or done while distracted. Checking messages, organizing files, or attending unnecessary meetings. Deep work, the focused, high-value work, requires total immersion. And anxiety is a cognitive distraction machine, constantly whispering doubts and sending you chasing phantom crises. Those rushed emails were often unclear, sometimes rude, and frequently needed follow-up clarifications. The final products, created under panic, required twice the amount of editing later. In the end, the anxiety-fueled speed cost me more time and mental energy than if I had just started calmly to begin with. For example, I once wrote an entire financial analysis the night before a major presentation, fueled by coffee and dread. The final document was technically accurate, but it lacked narrative flow and synthesis. It took 3 hours of panicked, shallow work, and then another 5 hours the next morning of quiet, miserable cleanup to make it presentable. That experience was a stark lesson. The time saved by procrastination was immediately consumed by the time lost to remediation. The scientific concept that perfectly illustrates this is the Yerkes-Dodson Law. It's a classic principle in psychology, and it essentially says that performance and stress have an inverted U-shaped relationship. You need some stress, a low level of alertness and engagement, what we might call eustress or good stress, to perform optimally. If your stress is too low, boredom, your performance is terrible. But here's the key. As soon as the stress level crosses that low to moderate line and heads into the high anxiety zone, performance plummets. Think of it like tuning a guitar string. Too loose, no sound, boredom. Perfectly taut, beautiful melody, optimal engagement. Too tight, the string snaps, high anxiety. When the anxiety hits, your brain defaults to the fight or flight response. This is amazing if you're being chased by a bear, but catastrophic if you're trying to solve a complicated engineering problem or have an empathetic conversation with your partner. The anxious brain is fast, but it is stupid. It gives you tunnel vision, convinces you that the only thing that matters is this one immediate crisis, and it steals all the cognitive resources you need for actual quality work. This tunnel vision forces us into quick, easy tasks that give a fast dopamine hit, like clearing the inbox, instead of the slow, challenging tasks that require sustained effort and are essential for growth. We confuse the feeling of being highly activated with the outcome of high performance. They are not the same. Anxiety provides speed, but it destroys sustainability and quality. Let's dive deeper into the root cause of this addiction to anxiety, the worthiness trap. Why do we cling to the idea that we need to feel stressed? Because culturally, and often personally, we have been taught that we must earn our right to exist. We must earn our rest, earn our peace, and earn the approval of the world around us. And the fastest way to signal that you are worthy is to signal that you are busy. Think about how we talk to each other. When someone asks, "How are you?" the standard response is almost always, "Oh, I'm slammed," or "I'm crazy busy." If you reply, "I'm great, I had a very restful weekend and cleared my mind for the week," people often look at you sideways, as if you've confessed to a moral failure. Our society views full calendars and high stress as signs of status, importance, and ambition. Conversely, calmness and spaciousness are often mistaken for laziness, apathy, or lack of drive. This is the social contract of the hustle culture. You must put on a performance of struggle to be taken seriously. We use stress as a social currency, bragging about late nights and skipped meals, turning our physical and mental exhaustion into a perverse badge of honor. This cultural mandate trickles down and forms a deeply uncomfortable personal shame around stillness. I remember the first time I actually stopped chasing the rush. It was mandatory. I had hit a wall, a full-blown, undeniable burnout where my body simply refused to cooperate anymore. I had headaches every day. My digestion was a wreck, and the thought of opening my laptop literally made me feel nauseous. My therapist gave me a simple yet terrifying homework assignment. Do nothing productive for 2 full days. My immediate reaction was internal terror. What about the unread emails? What if I miss a crucial opportunity? If I stop, what will define me? This wasn't just fear of missed deadlines. It was an existential fear. When the external demands quieted, the internal voice, which had defined itself purely by its achievement metrics, suddenly had nothing to measure. That gap is where the identity crisis lives, the profound fear that if we are not doing, we are not valuable. The first few hours were agonizing. I sat on my couch with a book, but my mind was screaming. It felt like my internal engine was trying to rev even though it was disconnected from the wheels. My anxiety wasn't about the tasks anymore. The anxiety had become a self-sustaining system. It was the background noise of my existence. This is the psychological trap. We become addicted to the neurochemical cocktail of urgency. We mistake the release of adrenaline and cortisol for feeling alive. When we remove the tasks, the anxiety doesn't disappear. It just turns inward, asking, who are you when you're not achieving? Who are you when you're quiet? This is where we must distinguish between intrinsic and extrinsic worth. Extrinsic worth is based on your job title, your paycheck, your output, or your social approval. Intrinsic worth is inherent. It is the belief that you are valuable simply because you exist. Productive anxiety is the mechanism we use to constantly chase the former, while running away from the terrifying silence of the latter. And for many of us, the answer is terrifying, because we've never built a foundation of intrinsic worth. We've only built worth based on extrinsic output. We need to stop using the term burnout so lightly. Burnout isn't just being tired. Burnout is a profound, destructive state that dismantles your relationship with your work and your purpose. The World Health Organization defines burnout by 3 key dimensions. 1. Feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion. 2. Increased mental distance from one's job or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job. Detachment. This cynicism is the emotional fallout of forced productivity. When the anxiety forces you to push past your sustainable limits, your brain develops a defense mechanism. Don't care so much. You resent the deadline, you resent the client, and you start to view your work as a tedious enemy rather than a meaningful contribution. This detachment kills passion and meaning faster than any external failure could. And 3, reduced professional efficacy. The feeling that, despite working hard, you're just not good at anything anymore. The ultimate cruel irony of productive anxiety is that it leads to poor results. You work 60 hours a week, but your ability to innovate shrinks, leading to the crushing feeling that your effort is no longer effective. It's that second point, cynicism and detachment, that shows how productive anxiety is self-sabotaging. When we use anxiety to force ourselves to perform, we create a hostile relationship with our work. We resent the deadline, we resent the client, we resent the goal. We detach ourselves emotionally because the only way to survive the high-stress environment is to stop caring. This detachment is the very definition of cynicism, and it kills passion and meaning faster than anything else. Think about the quality of the work you do when you feel cynical. It's rote, it's minimal, and it's heartless. You might check a box, but you certainly won't solve a problem creatively or connect with an audience authentically. You are trading your capacity for deep, meaningful contribution for the ability to just survive the next hour. This constant state of high alert, this adrenaline habit, also fundamentally changes your physical health and your ability to rest. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, is highly effective at getting you through a crisis, but toxic in chronic doses. Its sustained presence impairs memory consolidation, suppresses the immune system, and disrupts sleep cycles, leading to persistent low-level inflammation that drains your energy and makes you more susceptible to illness. If you've ever laid down at night exhausted, only to have your mind suddenly start spinning through your to-do list like a lottery machine, you know exactly what I mean. Your body has become so proficient at manufacturing stress hormones that when you stop driving, the engine still runs. We tell ourselves, "I'll rest when the project is done." But by the time the project is done, your body is so chemically overloaded with cortisol that it can't switch off. The anxiety that got you through the deadline becomes the insomnia that prevents recovery. You end up in a perpetual cycle. Tired, so you force yourself to work, which makes you more tired and anxious. So you force yourself to work faster, leading to complete exhaustion and eventual crash. The system is designed for collapse, not continuation. You are essentially running on credit, taking out loans from your future health, and the interest rate is crippling. The simple but profound counter-truth is this: you cannot achieve sustained, high-level success from a place of chronic stress. All true, lasting creativity and innovation come from a space of calm, secure attention. So how do we break the addiction? How do we replace the panic button with a sustainable process? It starts with a mindset shift, but it's anchored in concrete, daily tactics. We need to learn how to motivate ourselves through calmness, organisation, and a sense of presence, rather than through fear and urgency. Your first job is to stop treating every single item on your to-do list like a physical threat. Most work tasks are not bears chasing you, they are rocks you need to move. When you feel that familiar spike of anxiety, pause and perform an anxiety audit. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1. What is the worst-case consequence of not doing this task right now? Usually, someone will wait an hour, or the due date moves. Rarely, I will lose my shelter or my life. This lowers the emotional stakes immediately. By using rational thought, you immediately deactivate the perceived threat level and reclaim control from the primal response center of your brain. Second, is this feeling of anxiety helping me perform the specific action, or is it distracting me? If it's distracting, you need to deal with the feeling first, before the task. If the answer is distracting, take 1 minute to breathe deeply, stand up, or drink water. This is treating the symptom, anxiety, so you can return to the problem, the task, with clarity. And finally, what is the absolute smallest, non-negotiable step I can take in the next 5 minutes? This is about building momentum without fear. You're tricking your brain into starting the engine at a low, safe idle. A small 5-minute win generates a tiny positive dopamine release, which is far more motivational than the crippling fear of a massive task. This audit forces your prefrontal cortex to re-engage. It moves the conversation from the emotional, panicked brain, "OMG, I'm failing," to the rational, planning brain. Okay, this is just a thing that needs a starting action. Let me share another effective tactic with you. Scheduling white space, or as I call it, the gift of nothing. If you have a packed calendar, your brain perceives your life as a high-stakes, time-crunched emergency. You need to intentionally build in periods of scheduled nothingness. I'm not talking about scheduled meditation or scheduled break, because those still feel like tasks to be performed. I mean white space. Time blocks that have no agenda other than to exist. This white space should be treated like a non-negotiable meeting with yourself, an appointment with open possibility. This white space serves two critical functions: cognitive restoration and proof of safety. Cognitive restoration allows your default mode network to kick in. This is a network of brain regions that becomes active when we are not focused on the external world, but are daydreaming, thinking about the future, or just resting. This is when your brain does its best background processing, connecting disparate ideas, consolidating memories, and generating true creative insight. Anxiety shuts this down. Calmness unlocks it. That great idea you needed for the project? It won't come at 1 a.m. while panicking. It will come when you're staring out the window during your scheduled nothingness. When it comes to proof of safety, by reliably scheduling nothing and allowing yourself to enjoy it without the world ending, you are slowly teaching your nervous system that it is safe to stop. This is the long-term work of recovering from the adrenaline addiction. You are literally reprogramming your internal alarm system. Each time you take a scheduled break and the world doesn't collapse, you weaken the link between stopping work and imminent disaster, which is a foundational requirement for sustainable performance. And if this tactic doesn't work, then let's try the process mindset, trading outcome for input method. Anxiety is always focused on the catastrophic outcome. What if I fail the test? What if I lose the client? What if this all falls apart? This external focus is paralyzing. The outcome is external and uncontrollable. You can control your effort, but not the market's reaction or the examiner's grading criteria. Calm motivation operates on a process mindset, focusing on the input. What is the small, high-quality step I am taking right now? When you sit down to work, shift your focus entirely away from the end result. Your goal is not to write a perfect 4,000-word monologue. Your goal is to work with calm, focused attention for the next 25 minutes. If you work for 25 minutes with attention, you have succeeded. The outcome, the quality of the work, is a secondary byproduct of the high-quality process. If the work isn't perfect, you still succeeded in the process, and you can simply apply the process again tomorrow. This simple shift disarms anxiety by taking the pressure off the final, uncontrollable result and placing it on the immediate, controllable action. This frees you from the emotional volatility of fear and replaces it with the steady satisfaction of disciplined effort. You can also try the language shift from obligation to choice method. This is perhaps the most profound change you can make. The language you use internally dictates the emotional color of your experience. Anxiety uses the language of obligation. I have to finish this. I must call them back. I should be working faster. This language breeds resentment and fear. Calm motivation uses the language of choice and alignment. I choose to work on this because it aligns with my goal. I get to call this client, which helps me contribute to a project I care about. I can now apply focused attention to this task. The rephrasing from have to choose to is an instant act of empowerment. It turns a burden into a decision. The moment you catch yourself saying or thinking, I have to, stop, rephrase the sentence and find the choice in it. Sometimes the choice is simply, I choose to do this thing I don't love so that I can buy back my time later for the things I do love. Finding the choice immediately repositions you as the agent of your own life, not the victim of your to-do list. Even in the most tedious tasks, you retain the power to frame the effort as a means to an end that you have chosen. This language shift is the key to rebuilding your sense of worth. You are not worthy because you must perform. You are performing because you choose to engage in a life that you value and that you have agency over. If you take one thing away from this long conversation, let it be this. You are not defined by your anxiety, and your worth is not conditional upon your productivity. The hustle culture lied to us. It told us the key to success was driving yourself into the ground, sustained by a fear that you're never good enough. It made us addicted to the sound of the emergency siren that is anxiety, because we forgot what the sound of genuine, calm contribution felt like. The work of mental health here isn't about eliminating drive, it's about purifying it. It's about separating true ambition, the desire to create, contribute and engage, from chronic fear. When you trade the chaotic energy of anxiety for the steady, secure hum of calm focus, you don't just become a less stressed person, you become a better, more sustainable, and ultimately more effective person. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to take space. You are allowed to be slow, thoughtful, and deliberate. And I promise you, when you finally allow your nervous system to believe it is safe to operate at a lower, healthier energy, your best work will finally be able to breathe. If this idea of moving from urgency to calmness resonates with you, I'd love to hear it. What is the one task you're going to tackle this week using the process mindset instead of the panic mindset? Let me know below, or share your thoughts with the community.